Mr. Speaker, I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle from the opposite benches.
Keir Starmer loves to yell, but what happens when someone finally fires back and lands a hit right where it stings? Each time anyone dares to challenge him, Starmer and his Labour crew start making a fuss, throwing fits like children caught copying in class, but this time, Starmer picked the wrong opponent. Reform UK's Lee Anderson didn't just raise questions, he seized Starmer by the collar, slammed him down on the floor of Parliament, and left him utterly stunned. It was clean, ruthless, and precise. Anderson's remarks struck so hard that Starmer flushed with fury yet still couldn't respond. He tried to recover, but the blow had already landed. So what exactly did Anderson say that rattled Starmer to his core? In this video, we'll uncover the full story. It began with one of the most embarrassing moments in recent PMQs. Reform UK's Lee Anderson rose and delivered a question so direct, so crushing that it tore through Keir Starmer's entire green policy within seconds. Yes, a single question was all it took to shatter Starmer's environmental agenda and the billions poured into it.
Mr. Speaker, I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle from the opposite benches. So Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister a very simple question on behalf of all the net zero sceptics. If we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the Earth's temperature by? Simple question.
A straightforward question. Starmer, who boasts of leading a government built on economic strength and scientific genius, couldn't respond. Not because he failed to grasp it, but because he realized the true answer would demolish the illusion he's so carefully built around his net zero dream. So rather than giving facts, reasoning, or even a figure, he dodged. He threw jabs at Anderson. He dragged Nigel Farage into the mix. He even resorted to a laughably immature swipe, claiming Farage wants to be Prime Minister but can't.
Mr. Speaker, net zero is of course not easy, but it's a huge opportunity to boost our growth, our jobs and our economy. And so he knows my views on that. But you know, he complains that our better ideas if they stop fawning over Putin. And I understand the member for Clacton wants to be Prime Minister. He can't even lead a party that fits in the back of a...
And I get it, the member for Clacton wants to be Prime Minister, yet he can't even manage a party small enough to squeeze into the back of a cab. That's one of the most pitiful, cringeworthy, and intellectually hollow replies ever uttered. That wasn't an answer. That wasn't leadership. It was political cowardice disguised as clever humor. A man with no grasp of science, no sense of numbers, no real substance, just a grin and a few lazy punchlines.
Most members of this House will be aware that the welfare system can be a nightmare to navigate and does indeed need reform. But could we have less of this rhetoric about his £5 billion package of disability benefit so-called reform being moral? There is nothing moral about cutting benefits for what may be up to 1 million people. This is not about morality. This is about the Treasury's wish to balance the country's books on the back of the most vulnerable and poor people.
Let's be real, if a Prime Minister can't explain how much a flagship green policy will actually alter the planet's temperature, then the policy is either a deception or the Prime Minister is a pretender. Either way, someone's being cheated, and it isn't the climate. The reality is that the UK produces roughly 1% of global emissions. Even if we went entirely carbon neutral tomorrow, turned off every engine and every light, shut down every factory, and sent everyone back to the Stone Age, the projected effect on global temperature would be under 0.01 degrees Celsius by 2100.
Let's face it, I mean, I had this argument with somebody out in Baku earlier in the week. You know, we've reduced our emissions by between 42 and 50% over the last 10 to 20 years, and it hasn't made any difference at all to the climate, and it hasn't made any difference at all to the carbon emissions of the world. In fact, in every other place, it's going up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Britain is going to look quite ridiculous if our economy goes on shrinking in years to come. The Americans have been growing really quite quickly because despite Mr. Biden's best attempts, the American economy is much stronger than ours and has kept growing. And I think we can probably expect that Mr. Trump will accelerate that growth. So, they are all, what isn't it? Mississippi now is the poorest state in the US is now wealthier yes. than anywhere in the UK. I mean, right. It's just, this is madness how far we're dropping behind. And as you say, it's making no difference to the climate at.
That's the cold arithmetic Starmer refused to speak aloud because it would unravel the whole charade. £11 billion gone, industries gutted, welfare cut to the bone, and the climate doesn't even blink.
So, Charlotte, you've seen the pathetic response from Sir Keir Starmer. He's not here to defend himself, but it wasn't a response at all. Either he couldn't answer the question or he knew the answer and was too embarrassed to give the answer. Is net zero killing us?
I think it's the second one. I think he's too embarrassed to admit that net zero isn't working. I can't believe he's still peddling this idea that it's a boost to the economy, even as evidence points in the exact opposite direction. We're seeing job losses in factories because factories are too expensive to run. It's really affecting the working people, while people in Westminster are sneering. The Ed Miliband sneering, virtue signalling.
Yeah, sneering, yeah.
Net zero zealots. But what it's actually doing is affecting people with jobs in factories, which is completely the opposite end of the scale. I just don't think they take into account these people. And I think the fact that Kemi Badenoch this week sort of wrote it off, it says all we need to say, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And while Labour funnels billions into this green illusion, they're slashing winter fuel aid, disability support, and personal independence payments. They're making it harder for the most vulnerable to get by while bankrolling offshore wind farms that fall silent when the wind dies down. They're choosing fantasies over pensioners. That's not progress. That's cruelty wrapped in a green bough.
Net zero by 2050 is impossible. I don't say that with pleasure. I want a better future and a better environment for our children, but we have to get real. Anyone who has done any serious analysis knows it cannot be achieved without a significant drop in our living standards, or worse, by bankrupting us. Responsible leaders don't indulge in fictions which are going to make families poorer or mortgage their children's future. Without the rest of the world doing the same, we are making our country less safe, less secure, and less resilient. That's why, as part of our policy renewal, we are going to do something that Labour failed to do in 14 years of opposition. We are going to deal with reality.
It's a hoax, isn't it? Net zero. If the enemy is carbon, then surely the last thing you would do is chop down a load of trees in a place that is considered the lungs of the planet to build a 4-lane motorway for a summit about saving the planet.
Before we move ahead, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If so, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive coverage of the major shifts shaping British politics. Now, let's carry on. It's becoming clear that this is all a con, with Starmer and the Labour Party endlessly making promises to please climate activists. In truth, they all know these goals are impossible to reach, and they haven't outlined a single realistic plan. Nigel Farage.
Well,
it depends what those climate policies are. And at the moment, we're pursuing completely unrealistic climate policies. I mean, the Labour pledge to decarbonise the grid by 2030 will not happen, just as the Conservative pledge to decarbonise the grid by 2035 will not happen. Not only is it impossible, it's actually unaffordable. So we have to be grown up and sensible. If we get new technologies that give us cheaper energy or better ways of manufacturing things, that's great. But what we're doing in this country is we're sacrificing economic growth. We've been massacring British manufacturing. And we say to ourselves, isn't it marvellous? We've reduced carbon emissions more than any other Western country, but we haven't. All we've done is to export carbon emissions when when our steel works go to India, or our car manufacture moves to China, or to Turkey, or wherever it is. We're living in a complete fool's paradise.
We're tying ourselves in knots over net zero. Oh my God, isn't it awful? Look at what we're doing to the world. Well, look at this tweet from Narendra Modi. He's the PM of India, fighting for re-election, boasting that India this year will produce 1 billion tons of coal. That's what they're going to mine this year. And then look at the all-time graph for CO2 emissions, and you'll see even the Industrial Revolution was barely a blip compared to what is going on now. Why should we put money on electricity bills? Why should we be importing oil, gas, many other things, when frankly we are irrelevant? If climate change is a problem, I'll tell you what, we're not even a part of it. Look at the numbers.
Meanwhile, whenever a question about the future of energy policy is raised, Starmer doesn't even pretend to take it seriously. Instead, he smears his critics as Russian sympathizers. That's the state of political debate we've now sunk to. If you challenge Labour's net zero madness, you're branded a Putin supporter. If you dare to ask about energy costs, you're labelled anti-science. It's petty, manipulative, and deeply reckless. Because while Starmer cracks jokes about taxis and invents imaginary ties between Reform UK and Moscow, British households are being priced out of heating and lighting their homes. Steel plants are closing. People are losing their livelihoods. And the Prime Minister of this nation still can't answer the most basic question about his own energy strategy. This isn't leadership. It isn't science. It's not even a coherent policy, it's ideological chaos wrapped in PR slogans. Starmer has no blueprint, no evidence, and no integrity, just mockery, hollow catchphrases, and a disastrous green crusade that's leaving Britain colder, poorer, and angrier by the day. But let's focus on what Starmer refused to mention. Labour's net zero scheme, led by Ed Miliband, carries a jaw-dropping cost of £28 billion per year, and it's still climbing. Yet unlike vital public priorities such as heating support for pensioners, aid for disabled citizens, or relief for struggling households, the green agenda is treated as untouchable. Cuts are being made across the board to finance it. Under Labour, winter fuel allowances are shrinking, disability benefits like PIP are frozen or limited, and welfare reductions totaling more than £6 billion are underway, all while the government pours billions into vague green projects that deliver no clear results. What makes it even more insulting is that Starmer's own team admits Britain will still face tariffs and inflation, worsening an already fragile economy. So while Labour throws money at wind farms and carbon credits,
Prime Minister, the Bank of England's just cut interest rates, but it's also halved growth for 2025 forecast and raised the inflation forecast and said employers' national insurance hike will raise prices and hit jobs more than expected. It's a poor verdict on your budget and bad news for your growth plan. You must be really disappointed.
Well, what I think is significant today is that the interest rates have come down. That's the third cut in interest rates since July. That is really important because that means more money in people's pockets. Of course, wages are going up higher than inflation. Again, more money in people's pockets. But we're never going to turn around the economy in just 6 or 7 months. It was always going to take time. There's more to do. And that's why the announcement we're making today about nuclear, which is moving this on significantly to small modular reactors, getting again to the front of the queue in the world on that, making sure that can be done elsewhere across the country. So AI, data centres and nuclear can come together. This is hugely important. That means lots of investment into our country, which is then measured in jobs. So when it comes to growth...
They said that your NI is going to cut jobs. They said the NI...
Starmer's pledge to completely decarbonise the UK's power grid by 2030 isn't just bold, it's delusional. Even Gary Smith, head of Labour's allied union GMB, has openly admitted it can't be done. Why? Because the grid simply isn't built for it. There aren't enough undersea cables to carry offshore wind power. There's no practical large-scale energy storage solution. The UK currently holds barely enough capacity to power the nation for a single hour. Meanwhile, the latest government auction for offshore wind developments collapsed after not a single company placed a bid. Investors have lost confidence. The market's unstable. Yet Labour clings to its 2030 target like it's a sacred doctrine. And when challenged, they offer no credible response. Anderson summed it up perfectly: whenever Labour runs out of answers, it just makes noise. This is a party that doesn't engage in discussion. It dodges. It doesn't justify policy.
This useless Labour government are doing the impossible. They're actually making things worse. They really are. Look who we've got running the country at the moment. Free Gear Keir. Or Never Hear Keir. We've got Rachel from Accounts. We know her, don't we? Angela Rayner, the no-brainer. We've got Mad Miliband, that net zero fanatic. And let's not forget our very own mastermind, David Lammy. He's a proper chop.
He's an absolute fool. Starmer had the perfect moment to lay out his grand vision, to show the British public how his plan would actually benefit them. Instead, he chose to sneer at Farage, mocking him for trying to lead a party small and...
That's a little bit harsh. I have to say, Lee Anderson is superb at those sort of questions. In
simple, straightforward.
Very, very simple, just very straightforward questions. You know, what will this actually achieve? I think net zero, I mean, it's interesting. Kimmy Badenoch now rowing back on that. Again, it's the Tories that put all that stuff into legislation. Theresa May, frankly.
She's doubled down on it today as well, Theresa May.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, Theresa May has so much to answer for on so many different issues. But in terms of the long-term damaging legacy to this country, net zero is the one that is...
In doing so, he revealed exactly the kind of prime minister he truly is: shallow, evasive, and intellectually bankrupt. What's your take? Why is Starmer putting effort into something that brings no immediate benefit instead of focusing on issues that could improve millions of lives right now? Isn't it clear that supporting pensioners and providing welfare for the disabled should take priority over lofty environmental ambitions? Let us know your views in the comments below. Can Keir Starmer really lead Britain, and should he even be trusted to try? Want to see more videos like this? If so, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on British politics and the shifting events shaping the nation. Until next time, stay tuned.